Hi guys, welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe, and today I am bringing you another 7 round mock draft for the year 2024 for our beloved, bless you boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. We are going to do a draft today where we pick at 14 and 45, but yet still manage to pick up mid-round picks. This is something I was debating on. Is it possible to actually pick at 45 and 14 and still be able to pick up mid-round picks? Well, the only logical way to do this is to package picks and move up. And this would include picks from this year as well as future picks. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you want to get the best player you can get without moving up, and you stick and pick at 14 and 45. So what's the best case scenario after that? Well, as far as players on our team that we could possibly move on draft day, I know Marshon Lattimore is an option. It would cost us money. I think we're either going to keep Lattimore or we're going to trade him after the draft before the season starts. So I'm going to leave Lattimore out of the equation. As a matter of fact, I don't think the Saints have a lot of bargaining chips, at least not a lot that I'd be willing to bargain with to lose. So Lattimore's a special case. He's the best player on the team. I think we're good at the secondary. If we do move him, you'd still have to address it in some other ways, but it's not likely. And I don't like the idea of messing around with Taysom Hill or Alvin Kamara. But there is one player on our roster that I don't even really account for, and that's Peyton Turner, the defensive end who's in his last year. If we re-sign him, it'll be all based on whatever he can accomplish this year. And he's sitting on the depth chart behind a second-round pick in Isaiah Foskey, our big money free agent, and Chase Young, not to mention our starters in Granderson and Jordan. So Peyton Turner is the kind of guy that, with all of the ability in the world, he can't stay healthy. So he's on our team. He'll be on our roster. I expect him to be hurt at some point. And if he is healthy, he'll be a plug-and-play guy. He'll be a rotational guy. And yeah, if he stays healthy and starts to produce better than Jordan or Granderson, that'll be, unexpected. But would you still give him a big contract after one decent year, after being on our team for 3 years and only managing to play in 15 games? Yeah, I look at Peyton Turner as a pretty good player to trade during the draft. Maybe you can't quite get a deal done and you throw in Peyton Turner and it makes the deal happen. So I guess on face value, I wouldn't expect a team to want to trade for Peyton Turner, not straight up. You might get a 5th-round pick from a team that's desperate for edge rushers. Maybe a team that has extra late-round picks and wouldn't mind spending one on a young guy who, if he remains healthy, could be a decent piece. So Peyton Turner's my player of choice. That's the player I'm going to move at some point in this draft. I'll try to combine it with a bunch of other stuff and see what happens. And another option, of course, is to package 5ths and move up into the 4th, which is something we can do. And like I said, we can also trade draft picks from next year. So our draft picks after 14 and 45, we have 4 5th-round picks, 2 6th-round picks, and a 7th-round pick. So, yeah, 4 5th-round picks is a lot. If I start to think about, well, if we trade a 5th-round pick next year, that's okay because we got 4 of them this year. So I start to think of the 5th-round pick next year as an option for a trade. And then you look at the third round and the fourth round. We don't have a third rounder or a fourth rounder. So I can have no third rounder, no fourth rounder this year and have a third rounder and fourth rounder next year. Or maybe I can do a little flip flop thing where maybe I trade the third rounder or the fourth rounder next year and some sort of package this year. That'll leave me with either a third or a fourth next year, but I don't have either this year. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I pick at 40, pick at 14, pick at 45, and then instead of having no pick in the third or fourth round, have one pick, either a third rounder or a fourth rounder, even if I have to sacrifice one of those picks next year. I would rather have a first, a second, and a fourth this year, and a first and a second and a third next year, and just be missing the third one year and the fourth, something like that. So those are all of the options swirling around in my head. This is the ammunition I'm going into this draft with. And yeah, if the perfect player is not there at 14 or at 45, then yeah, this exercise to me is futile, because I would trade down if that were the case at either pick. It's my intention, so hopefully somebody good enough is there, and let's get this draft started. Yeah, the Saints are picking at 14. In the last 10 mocks that I've done offline, in the early goings, I noticed that Fashanu was available quite a bit for the Saints at 14. Now, in the last several drafts I've done more recently, not as much. Seems like Fashanu is getting taken earlier in the more recent mocks. I documented this one about halfway through the last 10 that I've done. So Joe Alt gets drafted. A lot of other players get taken in the top 10. And sure enough, Olu Fashanu falls to us at 14 in this scenario. And he's one of the top 8 players on my board. And I'm going to grab him if he's there. So with pick 14 in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. The big guy who is the perfect pass blocker. Needs to work a little on his run blocking, but he's only 21 years old and he's got all the physical tools. He is one of those can't miss prospects. You have questions about all of the offensive linemen in the first round of this year's draft. The only question with Fashanu is if he can develop as a better run blocker. And with the youth and size and athletic ability on his side, hopefully our coaching staff can get the most out of Fashanu. This is the best case scenario for the Saints. I highly doubt one of the best quarterbacks will fall to us, if we would take him anyway. And yeah, I really doubt that Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Nabers would fall to you. So Rome Odunze at wide receiver might be there for you at 14. He wasn't in this scenario. But they are right there, kind of neck and neck for me. If I had my choice of either Fashanu or Rome Odunze, I would take Fashanu because I think the positional value is greater, even though I have both prospects kind of ranked around the same spot. So the Saints get their man at 14. Left tackle Olu Fashanu and Trevor Penning can figure it out. And yeah, probably not. So second round starts. And I'm really hoping A.D. Mitchell falls to us, but he doesn't. He gets drafted late in the first round. And then you have a bunch of very talented wide receivers at the beginning of the second round, but we're kind of got our eye on a bigger guy. We want an X receiver. And, in my opinion, if Ladd McConkey is still there at 45, you really have to seriously consider it. I'm looking more towards hoping Keon Coleman or Xavier Legette is there. And because we don't pick after pick 45 for so long, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have mid-round picks at this point. You know, you could take a chance on a guy like Xavier Legette. Just somebody with size, somebody that can crack into the starting lineup for this team. So pick 45 comes up for the Saints, and there's a guy that's there. He's pretty exciting for everybody involved. I'm a little low on him because I think his run blocking leaves a lot to be desired. And in this offense, you're going to have to be a wide receiver who can run block. But I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on him anyway. It's the perfect prototype. We can work on that run blocking. He's got great size. With pick 45 in the second round of the 2024 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select wide receiver Keon Coleman out of Florida State. Big boy, 6'3", 6'4". He shows a lot of ability. He really does. Not a lot of downside here. I think he's a contested catch guy. I think he can move around good. I know he had a poor 40 time. It was like 4.6 something. But then he excelled at the gauntlet drill better than anybody else, I think, at the combine, which kind of showed your speed while moving direction at the same time, which is something you do in football. So overall, I'm okay with Keon Coleman. I think at 45, it's a good pick. And Xavier Legette was still on the board. I went ahead and opted for Coleman. Now, we stick and pick with 14 and 45, and this is a pretty good scenario for most people. Defensive line is always an option with that second round pick, and I wasn't too thrilled about my choices there at that point. I'm really leaning towards addressing defensive line with that second round pick if the right guy is there. And there's lots of wide receivers to take, so that's the trouble with defensive line. If you don't get the right one that you really want, and you don't get them in the second round, yeah, your choices are thin towards the middle rounds. And wide receiver, you know, is pretty much 4 or 5 rounds deep. So there, we got Fashanu, and we have Coleman. So how am I going to acquire picks now? First thing I want to do is get a 4th round pick. I had a couple of scenarios. I could have gotten pick 100 from the Commanders, but that would have cost me a 3rd round pick next year. It was a move a 4th round pick next year. It's a move I almost made because Washington has the 100th pick. That is right at the top of the 4th round. It could be considered the last 3rd round pick. So trading a 4th round pick next year for this really high 4th round pick this year felt like a really good move to me, but I would have had to throw in a 6th round pick and possibly a 5th round pick in this year's draft to make that happen. I'm not too quick about getting rid of our 3rd or 4th rounder next year just yet. If I can get a 4th round pick and not touch my 3rd or 4th rounder next year, I'm going to try to do that. So I find a player with the Philadelphia Eagles. They pick at pick 120 in the 4th round. And I am able to give them my 5th round pick next year and one of my 4 5th round picks this year. Pick 175. It's the last 5th round pick I have. This feels pretty good to me. So I'm going to get a 4th round pick, and I'm trading one of my 4 5th round picks this year, and I'm trading the 5th round pick next year. Well, so the way I look at this is pretty plain and simple. I'm moving up 55 spots from the pick 175 to pick 120. And it's only costing me a 5th round pick next year. So that feels good to me. I make the deal, and these are the picks we have now. We have that all-important 4th round pick, 30 spots ahead of our next pick, pick 150. That dreaded 5th round, pick 150. How many picks can you get before 150? Well, we've got 2 selections with Fashanu and Coleman, and now I've secured a 3rd pick in that top 4 rounds.
So now that I have this 4th round pick, I'm going to try to use it as ammunition to try to get a 3rd round pick. And then now's when I'm probably going to have to throw in a player or throw in another pick from next year or multiple picks this year. But I'm close. So I find a player with the Cincinnati Bengals. They have 2 3rd round picks. They're pretty late 3rd round picks, but I'm pretty interested in this. If I can have 2 3rd round picks, I'll move from this 4th round pick. So how am I going to do this? We have a 3rd rounder and a 4th rounder next year. Now we have this 4th round pick this year. I'm going to go ahead and package a 3rd round pick and my newly acquired 4th round pick. So my 3rd rounder is going to be for next year. This is my intention. I give them a 3rd round pick next year. They give me one of their 3rd round picks this year. Then I throw in my 4th round pick and Peyton Turner to try to get the 2nd 3rd round pick. And this works for the Bengals. So this is how the trade's going to look. I give them my 3rd round pick next year. They give me pick 80. So 80's right around the middle of the 3rd round. I always value future draft picks as the middle pick in that round. That's the way I like to do it because you never know if it's going to be a good pick or a bad pick. So you just give it the point value of the pick right in the middle of the round. So 3rd round pick next year gets me their pick 80. Then I give them my pick 120 in the 4th round, which I moved up to acquire with the Eagles. And I throw in Peyton Turner, and that moves me up from pick 120 to pick 97. So overall, I'm only moving up 23 spots from that 4th round pick to that 97 pick. But that cost me Peyton Turner. Yeah, so it seems like Cincinnati gets off pretty good here. That 3rd round pick next year could be better than 80. It could be worse than 80. But they're still getting a 3rd round pick next year. And instead of picking at 97, they're going to pick at 120. And that 23-point pick drop is worth an extra player to them, Peyton Turner, who, if he plays to his ability, was a 1st round pick for us. So that's the way I value this this option to include Peyton Turner in a trade. You're not going to get much for him. You might be able to move up from the 4th round to the 3rd round if you make the deal good enough. So he's worth a 23 pick move from the 4th round to the very bottom of the 3rd round. This works out for Cincinnati. It works out for me. And I make this deal happen. So now instead of having just a 4th round pick, we've got 2 3rd round picks. And yeah, now we're going to have 4 picks in the top 3 rounds, top 4 rounds. So I like this. These are our newly acquired picks. And so pick 80 comes up in the 3rd round. Now keep this in mind. I've traded away a 3rd round pick next year and a 5th round pick next year. So next year in our draft, we're going to pick in the 1st round, the 2nd round. We're not going to pick again until the 4th round. But that's okay. It's better than having to wait till the 5th round to pick, like we are in this draft. So yeah, I'm securing top 4 round players here. Pick 80 comes up in the 3rd round for us. I'm excited. There's a player there I really like. It's a position of need. So with pick 80 in the 3rd round of the 2024 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Christian Haynes, offensive guard out of UConn. I'm kind of hoping he can switch sides and play the left guard's position. That would be great. That's what I'm hoping he can do. And I'm really excited about the pick. I wanted to address defensive line, but yeah, I'm not happy with grabbing somebody here. There were some edge rushers that I considered at this point. Some edge rushers with size that I like. But I think we're pretty good at edge rusher right now, not to force a pick there, especially with Chase Young. So pick 97 comes up at the very bottom of the third round, and I'm looking at my options, and do I pull the trigger on a player? And I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to try to make a move. I'm going to try to trade down from this spot. I got myself a third round pick. Maybe I can pick up a couple of fourth round picks if I trade down from 97. I can find a player in the Jacksonville Jaguars who have 2 fourth round picks. I give them pick 97 in the third round. They're going to give me pick 114 and pick 116 in the fourth round. Now, in order to make this happen, I got to give them an extra. No. I'm reading this wrong. In order to make this move more profitable for me, I squeeze a fifth round pick out of them as well. So, yeah, they're moving up 17 spots in the fourth round. It's going to cost them a fourth rounder and a fifth rounder. Jacksonville's willing to do it. They got a player in mind at pick 97. Yeah, this is how this works. I was reading this wrong. I don't have to give them anything extra. I give them the third round pick, my second third round pick that I have. And I pick up three picks because of it. 2 really good fourth round picks. So yeah, this is how I'm going to move around. Instead of having 2 third round picks, if the guy at 97 that I wanted is there, but it's a little too rich. So this is the move. And these are our new picks. And from this spot on, I'm going to be selecting into the 6th round because I like the way this is set up for me really well. The value wasn't there at 97, but it's going to be there with these mid-round picks in the 4th round. So when it's all said and done, I'll have 5 players in the first 4 rounds. And here we go with the pick 114 in the 4th round of the 2024 NFL Draft. The New Orleans Saints select tight end Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State. The 4th round is a great spot to grab a tight end. That's where I'm looking at the Saints grabbing a tight end somewhere in the 4th round. And you can wait and still get a pretty good player in the 5th or 6th round with a lot more questions. But I think Ben Sinnott's going to fit perfectly as a run blocker and a pass receiver. He's athletic enough to move around. I like it. We need a tight end, a complete tight end. And so we grab him. He was my most valued player at that spot. And we picked just 2 picks later. At pick 116 in the 4th round of the 2024 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select defensive end Muhammad Kamara out of Colorado State. He's a smaller guy, 6'1". He's in that 250 range, 255 kind of deal, 260. He's too short to get up to weigh that much. But I don't mind a smaller edge rusher, a situational pass rusher, a situational pass rushing defensive end. A guy like Kamara, who's more of a linebacker size, he's not going to play linebacker. He's just going to be a situational pass rusher, and he can get after the quarterback. And I like a piece like that. I just don't want to spend a high draft pick on a piece like that unless we can find something else for him to do besides rush the quarterback on 3rd down. In the 4th round, yeah, you take this guy for sure. This is exactly where I want to get a smaller edge rusher. Perfect. We don't have a guy with speed that can rush after the passer. I'm afraid to take a smaller guy, but in the 4th round, I'm not. And that wraps up the first 4 rounds for our beloved Bless You Boys. We get the offensive tackle in Fashanu. We get the wide receiver in Coleman. We get a guard in Christian Haynes, who, in my opinion, has a 2nd round grade. So we grab him in the 3rd round. High value pick there. And then instead of grabbing a player at 97, I grabbed 2 players in the 4th round. With tight end Ben Sinnott and defensive end edge rusher Muhammad Kamara, one of my favorite smaller edge rushers in the class. And so all of this movement, well, we did pick up an extra 5th-round pick. So once we traded one of our 4 5th-rounders earlier, we ended up picking another one up. So, yeah, there you go. We don't have a 3rd-rounder next year. We don't have a 5th-rounder next year. But we have a 3rd-rounder and 2 4th-rounders this year. So instead of missing a 3rd-rounder and a 4th-rounder and this year and having both of them next year, you're getting a 3rd-rounder and 2 4th-rounders this year. You're only missing a 3rd-rounder next year. I like the addition by subtraction. Works pretty good for me. And now the 5th round starts, and we still have those same old 7 picks like we used to have, basically. Instead of pick 175 in the 5th round, we end up with this high 153 in the 5th round with that Jacksonville trade. So, all right, 5th round starts, and my boy Christian Jones out of Texas isn't there. But that's okay. There's still lots of depth on the offensive line. And, yeah, there's a guy that I like that's too good to pass up here. I'm going to go ahead and grab, with pick 150 in the 5th round of the 2024 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Roger Rosengarten out of Washington, offensive tackle. He's a pretty solid player. A lot of people have a much higher grade on him than a 5th round grade, much like me with Christian Jones, who I have a 3rd round grade on. Some people have Rosengarten with the 3rd round grade, but he's here. It's too good to pass up. I like double dipping on offensive tackle if I can. You get a bona fide starter early, and then you get a piece that can compete with Landon Young or, God forbid, Trevor Penning. Roger Rosengarten in the 5th round is good for me. Still wanting defensive line help. I got the edge rusher, but I still want defensive tackles. And, of course, I want to focus on playmakers and the secondary. 3 picks later from 150, we're picking at 153 in the 5th round of the 2024 NFL Draft, and I decide to grab a playmaker that you can consider a running back or a wide receiver. And that pick is running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. out of Purdue. Some sites actually have him listed as a wide receiver. This guy is a running back, but he played wide receiver. He can do both. And he kind of reminds me of Malachi Corley in that aspect where, yeah, sounds like a great piece to have in our new offense if it operates the way I think it's going to. And you can have a player like Tyrone Tracy who can line up in the backfield as a running back and then all of a sudden split out as a wide receiver. You go into the huddle with Alvin Kamara and Tyrone Tracy, you don't know which one's lining up where. They could both stay in the backfield. They could both split out at the same time. Lots of options. I like it. There were other running back options there that I was intrigued with, like Dylan Laub or Dylan Lobe, however you say his name. Isaac Jurindo, one of my favorite running backs, was already taken at this point. I go ahead and take the chance on Tracy. I like his flexibility. I was thinking I want to double dip at wide receiver perhaps. I kind of want a running back too. I go ahead and get both positions filled with Tracy. All right, so we wait a few picks, but we're going to have 2 more picks in the 5th round, pick 168 and pick 170. And I'm focusing on defensive tackle at this point. And with pick 168 in the 5th round of the 2024 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Marcus Harris out of Auburn, defensive tackle. I like grabbing him because of his ability to play the run. He's a smaller guy, though. He's only 280. But, man, he, to me, being so good as a run blocker, you get this guy better at rushing the passer, and then you have yourself a nice plug-and-play player, somebody that can play early downs, even though he's small. He can come in and play if Nathan Shepard or Brian Bresee can't handle the run. Harris can come in on early downs and play that 3 tech and handle the run. And you coach him up a little bit. You get him late in the 5th round. He's cheap. Maybe in a couple of years he learns how to rush the passer better, and then he can be more of a rotational player in every down. So yeah, I like Harris. I always lean towards him, and I want to go secondary with the next pick. All right, sorry about that. I got cut off. So what I was saying was, I'm picking 2 picks later at pick 170. And with pick 170 in the 5th round of the 2024 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select another player from Auburn, cornerback Nehemiah Pritchett. Nehemiah Pritchett usually is hanging around in this 5th round area, and he had a pretty good combine, so he's a guy that can play outside. He might be able to play some nickel as well. Not sure. I wanted to address the secondary with the best player I could. And yeah, he's my highest rated player at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the Auburn cornerback. And let's see what happens going into the 6th round. Still looking for a big body at defensive tackle. And I have a couple of players that I have in mind, and I hope at pick 190, one of them is there, and both of them are still there. So I go ahead and take a shot with pick 190 in the 6th round of the 2024 NFL Draft. The New Orleans Saints select Fabian Lovett out of Florida State. Yeah, Braden Fisk had a great career in the defensive tackle Florida State, I'd say last year. And yeah, he had Lovett right next to him. Big boy clogging up the middle. Plays really well. I think Lovett has some serious 3-down potential. So I love getting a big body in the middle of the defensive line. You've got a small run stopper in Marcus Harris who needs to work a little on his pass rushing. And now you've got Fabian Lovett who can clog up the middle of the line. Pretty active player. I'm excited. So pick 199 in the 6th round comes up, and I get a trade offer from the Buffalo Bills. They're picking at 200, one spot behind me, and they're willing to throw in a 7th round pick because they got a guy identified. And I go ahead and make the deal because I can take or leave who's there at this point. It's all kind of lanyap for me now. So yeah, I drop one spot, boop, pick up an extra 7th, and let Buffalo do what they need to do. And then with pick 200 in the 6th round of the 2024 NFL Draft, I go to Auburn again, unbelievably, with cornerback / safety Jalen Simpson. I like Nehemiah Pritchett's ability to be able to get some playing time on our team, and I feel the same way about Simpson. Don't know if he'll be able to play a lot of safety early on. My issue with him is tackling. We have deep safety with Jordan Howden, but Jalen Simpson might be able to make it on the outside at cornerback too. We have a couple of DBs now in the room, and we can see who's going to make it. I wanted to address DB. I really wanted a safety. It just didn't fit, didn't fall the way I wanted. I could have gone with Dominique Hampton out of Washington if he was there, but he wasn't there at 200. So I go with Jalen Simpson. And now we have 2 7th round picks. We're going to wrap this thing up with pick 239 in the 7th round of the 2024 NFL Draft. Well, he's still on the board. I considered him in the 5th round. I'm going to go ahead and grab him. Running back Dylan Laub out of the University of New Hampshire. So, yeah, I got a piece player in Tyrone Tracy who can play running back and wide receiver. And I go ahead and grab Dylan Laub because I think he has special traits at the running back position that can fit into our system. He's a good receiver, too. Don't know if he can line up at wide receiver like I'm expecting Tyrone Tracy to do. But yeah, when it's all said and done, we are going to have 13 overall draft picks. So go ahead and take a chance on this guy. And 9 picks later, we're almost at the end of the 7th round with pick 248 in the 7th round of the 2024 NFL Draft. The New Orleans Saints select Jalen Coker out of Holy Cross. Wide receiver, kind of on the light side, had a great combine, good athlete. The Saints like that high potential, athletic type of guy. I'm hoping that Loeb and Coker can play some special teams. I hope all of these guys in the last 3 rounds can play some special teams or at least be good rotational players. And that's going to wrap it up for this draft. So let's pull up the final stats here. I mean, we traded a 3rd round pick next year and a 5th round pick next year. So we'll be missing that, but we end up with 13 players. 13 players, including 5 in the first 4 rounds. So there you go. That's my little experimentation. Can I pick at 14 and 45 and still manage to get some mid-round picks? Well, it cost us a 3rd rounder and a 5th rounder next year, but we got a 3rd rounder and 2 4th rounders this year when we didn't have them before. So that's basically what you're talking about. You still get you 8 players in the last 3 rounds. So you get an extra player there, and you're still picking up 3 extra players in the first 4 rounds. So I like it. When it's all said and done, you traded 2 picks next year, but you ended up picking up 4 extra players that you wouldn't have had before this year. So kind of balances out, especially if a lot of these players hit. I think Fashionu's going to hit at left tackle. If Trevor Penning doesn't win that starting job, wouldn't that be crazy if he starts to play out of his mind? I mean, tackle wouldn't be an option with our first pick in the first round if we thought Trevor Penning could do anything. Get a new coaching staff in here, and let's see, we can coach him up. And if he turns into an average starter, then I guess it's not a total bust. But wow. I mean, it's just too many questions right now. There's a lot of questions at right tackle for this team, too. So, Fashionu, left tackle, he'll start ahead of Trevor Penning. Penning's going to have to learn a whole new position, or he can just stay there at left tackle and be our backup. Your 2nd round pick is Keon Coleman. We needed a guy with size. I think Coleman's going to be an every down player along with Chris Olave. And then you throw in Rashid Shaheed for some speed and some sweeps and stuff like that. And then you still got A.T. Perry to come in and out, give Coleman a break every now and then. And yeah, I like it. We address wide receiver with a big body. We need to do that. Great. I'm a guy that loves to address the trenches. I want defensive ends, defensive tackles, and I'll take some interior offensive linemen too. Everybody acts like it's not a great need, but I don't want to start the season with James Hurst or Nick Saldiveri as a 4th round draft pick if I don't have to. Not to mention that Cesar Ruiz played like an awful right guard last year. It doesn't matter. He's a 1st round pick, and we just signed him to a big contract if he's not going to play well. So, yeah, interior offensive line is a big need for me, and we get it with a great player in Christian Haynes. He played most of his career at right guard, all of his career at right guard, so I'm hoping he can switch over to left guard. But, there it is. He's available in the 3rd round, and I have a 2nd round grade on him. It's funny because in a lot of these mocks, I see Kubiak/Shanahan type teams grabbing the offensive linemen that I like all the time. San Francisco is notorious in these mocks. I did the last mock I did where they moved up one spot and grabbed Haynes and ended up giving me all kinds of draft picks for it. Didn't make sense at the time, but when they grabbed Haynes, I thought, well, he was the guy I wanted. So, and then I did a mock like the next day or day after that I didn't document, and San Fran took Christian Haynes in the second round. So when they were moving up that one spot with me in the bottom of the second round and gave up so much to get Haynes, yeah, if that's a guy they're targeting, willing to take him in the second round, then yeah, it made more sense to me. So I did all that maneuvering in this draft and ended up with a third round pick and 2 fourth round picks. And that's what we're missing in this draft. And I proved here that you can do it. You're mortgaging a little bit of the future, but when you combine both years together, I think it balances out pretty good. So you don't have a third round pick next year or a fifth round pick next year, but you end up with a third and 2 fourths this year, and you still have 4 fifth round picks this year. So yeah, it's a numbers game. And we addressed 2 players in the 4th round at positions of need. We get a complete tight end, which we don't have, in Ben Sinnott, and we get a fast edge rusher that everybody wants the Saints to get early. We get Muhammad Kamara. He's a great player. He's going to be great. He'll come in on third down and give you that pass rush that Zach Bond was giving you before, and you're not giving up a high draft pick for him. I like it. Position of need, certainly. Pass rusher, and we got it. And then there you go. There's your 8 players in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. Talking about depth on the line with Roger Rosengarten at offensive tackle. And you also got Marcus Harris at defensive tackle, who can stop the run. And you've got Fabian Lovett, who can stop the run and who's a big boy and who's going to be an early down guy. Marcus Harris can be that early down 3-tech guy, too. And we grab a couple of secondary pieces out of Auburn with Nehemiah Pritchett and Jalen Simpson. This is where I think I failed at my experiment here. I didn't want to grab what was available in the secondary early on. And so you take chances with these late picks. A big safety there at the end would have been nice, but we managed Nehemiah Pritchett and Jalen Simpson. Let's see what happens with those 2 pieces. And then, our specialty players besides Sinnott. We got Tyrone Tracy and Dylan Laub. So you got 2 running backs who can catch very well, who seem to be able to fit into this system, that they're going to fit into the system very well. And I am pretty excited about Tyrone Tracy, with all of his receiving ability. To be able to split out, line up as a wide receiver, stuff like that. It's like 2 positions for the price of 1 with Tracy. And then Dylan Laub just fits into this system so well, in my opinion. I really want the Saints to get a speed back, sort of a third down kind of back. We've always been good at identifying those and utilizing them. So, and then Jalen Coker, the wide receiver out of Holy Cross. I was tempted to go with a big body. We got a big body with Keon Coleman. So I was tempted then to go for a playmaker. And since Tyrone Tracy can play wide receiver, it wasn't a necessity at that point. But Coker's a good player. A little too good to pass up here. I would rather draft them than try to grab them after the draft. So there you go. That's my latest mock, 13 picks. We didn't have to trade pick 14 or pick 45. Your only big questions about the trades I made was whether Peyton Turner could be moved during the draft. I don't think anyone's going to value Peyton Turner all that much, but maybe you can move up 22 spots if you give them a former first-round pick as compensation. So that's what I did. I moved up from pick 120 to pick 97. And it cost me Peyton Turner. A guy that's on our team that other teams could be, excited about since they never had to deal with it for the last 3 years. I mean, just look at how much money the Vikings paid Marcus Davenport. Didn't stop them from investing huge money in that player after everything he put us through. So, yeah, I think Turner can be moved during the draft. So you can make a small movement in a mid-round or later round selection. So there you go. I'm Joe. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos like this. I'm going to do another video very soon before the draft about my favorite players at each position. And then I'll probably do a really big one right before the draft of what I think the Saints should do. These mocks are always fun. I like to set parameters for myself. And then this one, we pick at 14 and 45 and still manage to get mid-round picks. This is how you can do it. Trade players during the draft, trade away picks, future picks. But yeah, when it's all said and done, it's not bad. I'm Joe. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel, like the channel. I need as much help as I can get if I'm going to get this bad boy going. So I love making this content. I'm a Saints fan, and I'll be doing it as long as I can. And I hope you guys join me. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?